The Queen of Granada, by M. Riff. Chapter 141, The Bookstore. As she pushed open the door and stepped inside, a bell hanging above it announced her arrival. A young man sat behind the front desk, his attention barely shifting from the comic book he was reading. Without raising his head, he asked indifferently, "What can I do for you?" Rita glanced at him and inquired, "Do you have a book titled, The Way to the Secret Rose Garden?" Without hesitation, the guy replied, "No, I'm sorry." Rita added, "It's about the catacombs underneath Granada." The guy, not bothering to think, shot back, "I just told you we don't have it." Rita remembered Rosen's advice to use her name if she met a dead end. She said loud and clear, "The Queen of Granada has sent me." The guy responded, somewhat annoyed, "I'll say it one last time, we don't have it." Rita was on the verge of turning away when she suddenly heard the voice of an elderly man. It came from behind a curtain that separated the back room from the front desk. "Alberto. Please, take a look at MZ35. I'm quite certain it's there." With reluctance, the guy set the comic book down and stood up. Rita followed his movements in the cramped space. The walls were lined with bookshelves filled with books that reached the ceiling. At the far end of the room, he reached for a tall, slender ladder leaning against one of the bookshelves, pushed it a few steps forward and began to climb it. Suddenly, the man pulled the curtain aside, emerged, stood behind the front desk, and explained, "Unfortunately, my son isn't much of a book enthusiast. He only helps out here for a few hours every weekend." Rita observed the man closely. Given how he fumbled toward the front desk and wore dark sunglasses indoors, it was clear he was blind. He continued, "I inherited this bookstore from my father, and I was very proud of it. He was equally proud when he took it over from my grandfather. Once, my father sent me all the way to Damascus to find a single book. I traveled from there to Shiraz in Persia, and finally, I managed to locate the book in a small village in India." Turning to Rita, he asked, "Do you know what that book was about?" Rita shook her head and replied, "No." The man explained, it was about Ibn Firna's flight with a glider, which he had built himself. He inquired further, "Do you know who Ibn Firnas was?" Rita admitted, "I haven't the slightest idea," feeling a bit embarrassed.